Alright, so this is the first round of what is it? Casuals tournament. Okay, yeah, he's here. And we're waiting on the Game Wizard. And I'm here with Macros,
Hello.
and this is a map that every group is going to use in round one, and it's an interesting map, lots of resources.
There's a lot of good spots.
Yeah, there's definitely this side.
Yes. That was obvious.
It's a handmade quality scientist, and this is an interesting found by Mystic because the silicon is the one difficult resource on this map, and clearly smashed most of the tempting tiles, while also keeping good tiles for Scavenger and having access to water. You see, Game Wizard is he chose the close carbon, which is not as good as the carbon that Mystic took. It should be fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mystic found it after Game Wizard and got better carbon.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain that it was. And here we go. Yeah, one of them. Why I'm a bit skeptical about this carbon is because the nukes. Because it's going to save you a bit of debt by not having to ship, but you're going to be a bit slower with upgrades, and fuel isn't really expensive. But yeah, this is a very interesting, problematic map because you have a lot of resources, but at the same time, we have two players who went for scientists, which are very good on this map. But at the same time, it's a pop call, which means that the scientists are going to have a bit of a problem with power, as they tend to do.
Yeah, and Game Wizard is actually the first player going into power.
For a Scavenger, and in his position, I feel like it's a very reasonable move. Power is going to be on the rise, and if he can repay that debt, it's probably going to be okay. On the other hand, maybe there's something to be said about just rushing to HQ level 3 and then moving into power, because you're not repaying too much debt. Well, I guess you are, but at the same time you're consuming quite a bit on life support. So I guess in HQ level 2 life support is not very relevant still. Yeah, power you can see is still rising, so it's very reasonable to
he's now on 0 debt and starts getting power money.
That should be a very good way for him to get back into this game. Even the carbon is really cheap at the moment, but he was nuked. Mystic was nuked by I think Minimat nuked him out. One of the scientists did. So I feel like they're going to have a bit of a problem against these scientists because, in general, Scavenger versus Scientist is not very powerful. On the other hand, there are core samples, which someone has bought actually, and I wonder if it was Peasant. Yes.
Scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
So Revolting Peasant, he identifies the fact that he is in a spot which is next to iron and water, but there's not a lot of water. However, with the core samples, you can easily increase the amount of water near you, make that patch bigger.
A Scavenger HQ has been upgraded. The black market is open for business.
Okay, Misty is the last player to HQ level 3. And that's in part because they took to water, and water price was dropping very, very fast.
Yeah, in part because of that. I also think a mutiny on a low carbon tile, which they did, was maybe not as efficient as it could be, because carbon really wasn't as useful. Like, it takes a while before a nuke tile creates a situation where carbon is expensive, so I feel like it didn't really pay off. It certainly made NC's I should call him game winner. His life much more painful. And
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Patent Lab. HQ level 3. That's potentially very strong, but it's also potentially risky. And I swear someone bought out the venture. No, it was him. He already has teleportation queued up, which probably is good because you will want to make Sunglass at some point. Yeah, oh, actually he has a superconductor queued up.
Yes, I like Superconductor first.
Oh, I see. It's Minimat who took teleportation without even building a paper. So
What?
I don't know if I like that decision, because you could have spent that cash to upgrade first and put down the paper instead of committing it immediately into a paper, which you will not get until after a while.
He also has a spy on Revolting Peasants Patent Lab, and I guess the plan was a mutiny, but then of course Fagun came down and things didn't work out so well.
Yeah, it's still good to have that spy, because he's clearly planning to go for Patent Lab, and it's just good to know what your opponent is researching, so perhaps you don't...
Yeah, sure, the spy's great, but you don't need to queue up teleportation already. That's just chems fixed in that spot and money you don't have.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't really like. And he still hasn't really built the Patent Lab, has he? No, he hasn't.
No, I really think the plan was just to mutiny it for teleportation.
Yeah, maybe. I see a claim next to a laboratory module at the colony, which he still hasn't really used yet to put down a building. But that's a very slow claim, even though it's a very good claim, because you can transition it into an offer market later. Meanwhile, whatever the scavengers do, Mystic is really far behind at this point. So, well, not really far behind, but definitely further behind than NC Game Wizards, who's still rolling in quite a bit of cash from Power. And
yeah, very fresh to HQ4 and just now spending the claims.
It's interesting, though, that in spite of having all that cash, he's still in a very problematic situation because of that early nuke. Because he's running on just the 2 low tiles. He mutinied high carbon from Mystic, but still, carbon is already insanely expensive with all the wind turbines, with all the upgrades, and it's just going to be very hard for him to get to either HQ5 or to get an offer.
Yeah, and he got nuked again on water.
Was there a high tile that got nuked?
It was a high tile that got nuked, but in defense it was the only high tile he had claimed.
Yeah, well, there's still the age-old argument about nuking medium tiles as opposed to high tiles.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. He hasn't claimed a medium tile, so the nuke is fine if you follow up with a second nuke.
Well, no, he had a medium tile. It was just mutinied away for a while, I think.
What, on water?
Yeah. Game Wizards. He has one right now.
Sold.
He has headed for.
Yeah, and now he has a medium tile, and it was a high tile before.
Oh! He has thinking machines. Yeah, I'm sorry, I completely forgot about that. Which means that the nuke was only half as efficient as it would be otherwise. Yeah, then it's probably a fine move. It's also a fine move to actually nuke out Game Loser, because he seems to be ahead.
Yeah, he's at least first player to HQ5. Of course, scientists always shine in the late game.
I'm not sure I like the Pleasure Dome.
Yeah, I was. I wanted to ask about that. That's a funny location.
It's not terrible or anything, especially with the power as dead as it is. But
Dirty rat
really,
trying to play
especially
our
if you see that Mystic is constructing one at the colony, which is going to be better, although it's currently only $25 better, but still, it all adds up. And the scavengers are really in a problematic situation. This is the point when I really want to see them to use the core sample. I don't think they have used it at all. I'm actually wondering who bought the other core sample, because I don't see anyone having used it in any meaningful way. But Game Wizard is just going to use all his crazy stockpile of cash to buy out Mystic, who does not have the money to defend himself.
A scientific HQ has been upgraded.
Yes, and I don't know if I like the move so much.
To buy out?
Yeah, because Minimed was also very vulnerable and still is, but now Game Wizard has no cash.
Well, he had quite a bit of cash before upgrading, I think, so maybe he wasn't as valuable, as vulnerable. But I want to say the Peasant was probably a little bit more expensive, but Game Wizard does have that money to cover the difference, and he's a scientist, and the scientist is always going to be a
This
better
is not an
supplement
option
than
for
scavenger
drugs. No, these are
in most
perfectly legal,
situations.
high-performance
But I'm wondering a little bit
supplements.
why Mystic fell behind quite so much, because part of it was the carbon shenanigans with getting nuked as well, and then there was a couple mutinies, so...
Yeah, and the water play was not very well executed. They took too much water at first, rotationed out of at all.
The Pleasure Dome is
Yeah, but I feel like there was
fully
enough
operational.
room to catch up beyond that point. But it just never happened.
Okay. Minimed is still 3 times in water, and just now he rotations it out, which is, of course, very good.
This game seems to have the classic oxygen dilemma. It's very hard to produce, and it's already pretty high in price, and it's the sand for off-worlds. If anyone moves into off-worlds at all. So that's going to keep the price high while keeping the fuel price low, which makes reactors really awkward.
Yes, and GameSlayer identified that as well, and is going into optimization center and upgrading
You probably meant
oxygen.
GameSlayer.
Yes. GameSlayer is not here. Sure.
Thankfully.
Yeah, that's true.
The engineers
It may enjoy trash talking him a lot, but he's not casual.
Sure.
Well, I feel like even though it may have been the wrong sub to acquire, it's pretty obvious that Mystic is going to make some good money for Game Wizard. That's an interesting idea to move out of Pleasure Dome, actually. At this point, I actually quite like that, because that means that his sub is going to get more money from Pleasure Dome. And that's not as efficient as just money yourself, but that's still good enough, especially if you can make something better than Pleasure Dome. What I don't like is this purchase into 2 people's stocks, because
Yeah, it always screams, team up on me.
Yeah, that's one thing. Another thing is that you're not really going to
Methods
buy
continue to improve.
both of
New
them.
building is available for
You
auction.
maybe can push for a buy on Revolting Peasant, but then you have to really push into him. And that's very unlikely. Anyway. And if you want to... And this is just dead money that is not really giving you anything. Obviously, it's very hard for him to move into an offworld, so if this game comes down to offworlds, I feel like the scientists would have a huge advantage. If he does move into an offworld, he has thinking machines, which makes it excellent for him.
Yes, but 100k alone on carbon, that's brutal.
Yeah, it's just very difficult. And you obviously are not going to do it if you're going to keep your stock bought up like that in other place for no reason. And if you do want to commit your money to something, why not just buy up the rest of Mystic? Who of course is making life difficult by moving into more solar panels and wind turbines in weird places because power is high. But at the same time, he's the one who's... Is he the... Yeah, he's the only player... Oh no, actually, Game Wizard also is making silicon. But yeah, you can see that Minimat is already in an offworld. The steel is not as crazy as carbon. It's less of it. And it's holograms, and it's probably not spied by anyone. Yep.
No, it's not, yes.
And offworlds are quite good, so that's a pretty big plus for him. His problem, of course, is that he's in D levels of debt, so... Apparently, I'm being told that I'm very quiet. You can poke me if this is a little bit better, because I have the...
Optimization routine successful.
Okay. It's very good for me, but if stream is bad, it's...
Yeah, the delay set I have to wait.
A scavenger
So,
HQ has
one
been
thing I
upgraded.
want to say is that Game Wizard is actually hacking, I think. Who's the hacker already? Oh, it's by the colony, so it should be an obvious hackery, but still, he's also the only person. No, he's not the only person producing electronics. He's not actually working the hackery in this moment. That's a bit of a sloppy situation. He's trying to push a buy onto peasants. That's not impossible. And one other thing I noticed is the three wind turbines in the plains, which I'll probably build because silicon was expensive, but carbon is insanely expensive, so I absolutely don't agree with this, because you're not likely to actually prepay your debts. So the fact that you're investing all that crazy carbon into very questionable power, as opposed to something useful like, I don't know, costs maybe, maybe just more reactors, maybe... Well, there's not a lot more, but still. So
as an expert on hacker arrays, what would you hack in his position?
in his position, this is the time to hack. Oh, this is a difficult time to hack anything because
Yes. There's no clear monopoly.
yeah, this is difficult. I think no. Yeah, the scientists are producing chems because they're scientists. Well, they have free carbon, one of them, and the other one has carbon scrubbing. Because my first instinct would be chems, but no, they're producing those. Electronics are being produced, glass is being produced. That's the problem with having a lot of scientists in the game, because they can cover markets very easily. Also expensive. Silicon might be an option because the sub AI is auto-selling it, but the sub AI is also making a lot of silicon, so maybe if they transition it, it could be hacked. But yeah, I don't really see what a good hack would be. Maybe actually glass, because there are only 2 glass kilns
Pirates. I
on the
hate
map.
those filthy bandits.
But you also need to produce glass, which is obviously it can be a problem. Although I would say that transitioning some of the reactors into glass would be good. The electronics are not very good because you really don't want to consume all that carbon. And at this point, Game Wizard is insisting on trying to buy out Roller Peasant. He's actually getting very close to it. I guess that sub money is really paying off, and just having decent production is very good. He also has some optimizations, though not a lot.
We have a hard to come by
And I guess the
land
carbon
claim
is really,
available to the highest bidder.
really good still. So he might pull it off. Well, he should probably pull it off, actually. The question is, can Minimaps buy enough of Game Wizard in time to try to stop him? Because if Game Wizard gets a buy on Revolting Peasant, that's 2 offloads that you're getting and a really good scientific territory. So I'm not sure if he can be stopped after that happens.
Probably not.
It would certainly take a lot of money to buy him up, even though he's indeed dead, so it should be a bunch cheaper.
Off-world shipment launched. Look at all the money.
But I'm not sure if Game Wizard can finish the buyout.
Our methods continue to improve.
Are you? He's very close. He only needs 550 more thousand. I don't think either player has nearly enough money to finish the buy.
Yeah, okay, there he goes. He got into glass, and that's making good money.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of these super transitioning.
6 tiles is an overcommitment, but 3 is
It's
definitely
maybe not
a
really
nice
an
move.
overcommitment at this point. I'm just not a fan of it, I guess.
And there he goes.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, that sub money really matters. The early power money is really what decided. That's really the danger of going scientific, because you're going to not only acquire a lot of debt, but you're also going to make power excellent for your opponents to potentially make use of it. And that's what Game Wizard did, and I have to say that the scientists didn't really move into power very well, so it managed to creep up a bunch again, which means that the sub was making a lot of power money, and it just made the sub really valuable. At this point, I'm suspicious that Minimaps is not going to manage it. He's building another off-world, which is very expensive. He's moving into power. He's going to repay a lot of his debts. Also, he pushed silicon into the sky with that. Which is, of course, is only going to benefit NC Game Wizard, because he and his subs are the only players that are producing silicon on the map. So I'm questioning a lot of these transitions these players are making throughout the game. I generally feel like there's a lot more transition than necessary. If you had nanotech, I would understand that, and I guess carbon eventually died off when the scavengers stopped upgrading. But I feel like, especially with an optimization center, it's so easy to just build a bunch of different buildings and upgrade them a bunch and have them be useful, because the prices are jumping pretty crazily.
Yeah, and life support was always good.
Yeah, life support was definitely good. Although no, actually it died off at one point.
Yeah, well, the second tier life support did, but water was high price at that point, and Game Wizard completely rotated out, I guess. So if he manages water better, he could stay all game in life support. I think.
Yeah, I feel like there were too many more transitions than necessary. Maybe not too many, but more than necessary. Interesting point that he's going for a glass shortage right now. I feel like that's that's a good shortage, but then you're in the problem of you're not actually producing glass, so you can still make a pile of money from it, but you're also making it so that your opponents can benefit
Price
from
manipulations
it.
to begin shortly.
One interesting point though is that, well, at this point we can be pretty sure that he's going to take this game. I think, because he's still too expensive for Minimat, and he's actually not buying into his own shortage. So
Yes, I was about to mention that. He forgot about it. Now he is buying it.
it's not too late still. Minimat completely ignored that shortage, unfortunately. So he's making good money in the moment from it, but he could have been making so much more. Could have punished his opponents, and yeah, I just don't see any hope. But of course, the players are not allowed to surrender, which I should have reminded Tezodan. I forgot to. I'm sorry.
The black market is online. Off-world shipment
So he has
launched.
to play it out.
Look at all the money.
Yeah, but it's only a matter of time at this point.
This was a long game. I forget if I mentioned it, but it is interesting that NC Game was at one without off-worlds. And off-worlds are pretty good this game. So it's kind of always refreshing to see that kind of wins every now and then.
And there it goes.
I'm going to note the time immediately. It's Sol 10:10.
Yes, Sultan 2410.
It's 1 point for Game Wizard. And it's already there on the spreadsheet. And yeah, so in a nutshell, Power is what decided this game, I think. He just moved into it like right in time. Just perfectly fitted into to start making money as soon as possible and before everybody else, and that's what allowed him to push through the upgrades in spite of a very, very deadly nuke. Whereas the scientists, I don't know, I feel like there was not enough attacking. Maybe at the same time there's only mutinies, nukes and power surges on this market, so that kind of makes it a little bit difficult because you're not really going to punish him. Although interestingly, you could have punished him with pirates on Silicon. Silicon was spiking all game. The early sub was transitioning all the time.
Yeah, he made good money on Silicon, about 150k profit.
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, and of course money from his subsidiaries was huge, just huge.
Yeah, I was a bit suspicious that Mystic is actually not going to make him too much money. I guess he never really made too much money, but he did eventually make a lot. I still think he would have been better off trying to buy out a scientist.
Yes.
Yeah, some interesting transitions. I'm not sure I liked the Pleasure Dome, not by the colony in the first place, but I did like the move out of it. in favor of better tiles, even though he only replaced with power with repaying debts, but still it was probably pretty good to repay debts in the end, because he did acquire quite a bit of it.
Yes, almost all players did.